Welcome back to Watchpoint. Let's not waste any time. You've seen the beach, you've seen the sun, you've seen our mugs. All of that is great, but we need to talk to another galactic entity. We're here with Space, and Space just played some Overwatch 2. So welcome to the show, and thank you so much for allowing us to pick your brain.
Thank you guys so much for having me on. This view is amazing.
It's not bad, you know, not bad, right? In the office.
It's pretty good. Yeah, just another day in the office. You know, at this point, it's nothing special anymore, but it's special to have you with us, and even more so after you got to play some Overwatch 2. Now, do you have any first impressions for us how it was to play 5v5?
I mean, it was amazing. It's super exciting, something new. I feel like the whole game is going to be reworked, which I think a lot of people don't really know yet, is that everything is going to be new. The tanks are going to be new, the DPS are going to be new, all the roles are going to be different, so I'm just looking forward to playing more of it.
Yeah, we have new heroes, but we also have new game modes as well. What was your first impression of the push?
Oh my god, like a lot of fighting, a lot of fights. Yeah, just non-stop battles, and we're gonna see some of it later during the halftime show. I think you guys are gonna see us play, but we just kept going at it. It's definitely a good replacement for 2CP. Just super exciting and a lot of energy.
Get it out. I've been advocating to get rid of it this whole time. I actually want to ad-lib a little bit here. So, do you think it's more in line with what you play in like King of the Hill, where it's like it is a lot of just fighting and just meeting each other in the middle, and less so of the team fight type of situation?
Yeah, definitely felt like, for me, honestly, it felt like Call of Duty. Like we were just going at it, respawn after respawn, battling, just non-stop fighting. So I think it's gonna be super exciting to see people play in the league. Like you're gonna see these DPS players and these tank players really shine, and just a lot of action non-stop.
I'm excited as well. And 5v5, you lose one hero on each side, a lot more open maps. Like you look at Rome, it's very open. Does that change essentially the way the game is played? Like even when you go to other game modes like Dorado and those kind of maps?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the pace of the game is going to change a lot, and we're going to see how it works out with 5v5. I think, well, once you see a lot of the more reworks come in for all the characters, we'll see how the flow changes, because I know Moth, for example, said Lucio was a lot different because, you know, it was harder to charge ultimate. You couldn't get a beat up as fast as when you had 6v6, so it's going to be interesting to see how it works on the other maps and how push like translates to those maps.
So of course, you're a role star tank player. I'm a tank player myself.
Congrats, by the way.
I've never heard of
that in person.
Congratulations, yeah. How does it feel to play tank in Overwatch 2? Because of course it's 5 versus 5, and as you said, it's a lot more faster paced. Do you feel like, you know, as a main tank, I don't know how much main tank you played, do you feel like as a main tank you have time to set up with your shields, or is it way more fast paced playing Soya, like damage output skirmishing?
Okay, so I would definitely take what I'm about to say with a little grain of salt. Because as I said, it's still super early beta what we played, and a lot of the tanks weren't actually reworked yet. You know, there were some that weren't actually in that we could completely play, but you'll see what we played coming up in halftime. But I felt like a lot of people are worried about the off-tank roles, the main tank roles. They don't know which direction it'll go. I personally think all the tanks will be good, and I know that the devs will work out to make all of them self-sustainable. So it's going to be different to see all of them play, you know? For me, it felt like every character was a DPS. The tank role felt like
that's awesome.
a tankier DPS, and, you know, you just got to fight and show off how good you are.
Finally, my Reinhardt plays now. It's working out.
Let's go.
Yeah. Do we need to come up with a new term? Because we can't say MTD anymore. What do we call it?
Tank difference, I guess.
I don't like it. I don't know.
Help us out, Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter, help us out.
Yeah, we have a lot of time to brainstorm, right? So keep them coming. Now, Space, I want to know for people who obviously haven't played the game yet, what are the few things which really stood out to you? What should people be really excited about?
Oh, for me, a lot of the new stuff was just like the graphic designs, and a lot of the new sounds, different animations are really cool. Some of the reworks are insane, like just the way the characters look and feel. It felt really smooth, the game in general. But I think the maps is going to be, you know, something new, and push is definitely something you have to look forward to, because that is just an amazing replacement for casual players and ranked players. It's going to be a good experience.
I'm curious on like how you felt about ultimates in the game as well, because as you said, because there's one less person in the game, less healing, less damage overall, do you feel like ultimates had more or less of an impact in the game?
Ooh, honestly, on push, it felt like just a lot of team fights and the ults weren't really there as much, like you said. But I think once we start to get more of the flow of the game, we'll see the ult charges coming up, and we'll see how each ult impacts every fight. But it's going to be interesting for sure. Maybe each pick you get might change a fight completely.
So we are actually seeing some of the Space main tank gameplay going as we speak. I see you get nanoed right here, and it's looking good, Indy. I'm just saying, like, I have full confidence in you next year playing that tank role. If you have to flex over to the Reinhardt, good display right now. We're pretty proud of this. So you of course played some Reinhardt. You know, some big changes. You have 2 fire strikes now instead of 1. You can charge a bit more drift with that speed. How did that feel like to play?
Like I said, the DPS. You know,
Yeah.
I'm just running it down, going in there, trying to swing. It was definitely different playing against the new Sombra.
Yeah.
I don't know. People probably don't know the changes yet, but
They'll
sometimes.
find out soon.
Yeah, you'll find out soon, but that character is very, very different. So, you know, I was just enjoying it, trying my hardest.
There's
Trying it.
different. Okay.
Yeah, they're different.
Yeah.
Oh, Danny, you're gonna love.
You'll
You're gonna love these changes.
You guys are gonna see.
I'm
Exactly.
so curious. I just want to ask so many questions.
Well, you will get an opportunity today, in fact. You don't
Yeah.
have to put it off that much longer. Now, who looked the best in the show match?
In the show match?
Were there a few individuals which really stood out where you were like, ooh?
Besides myself.
Obviously, besides yourself.
Besides myself, I would say it's going to be the DPS players for sure.
Oh,
we had some Decay Widow. It was nasty. I'm worried about playing against some of these guys that solo tank. You know, for me, when I came up against the Sombra, I said if I have to play against Lip as solo tank, you know, just sub me out. You know what I mean? Like these guys are going to be different on the DPS, so I think that the game is going to be crazy for DPS players, and that's what you have to look out for in Overwatch 2 for sure.
Yeah, we're super excited to see that show match in our halftime, to see that fast pace, and I just want to see you guys going at it. Now, we do have to wait a little longer for that, but one last thing here, Space. It's all good and well, but who's going to hoist the trophy at the end of our 2021 season? Give us your take.
Okay, so for me, I'm actually thinking, I know a lot of people probably don't expect this one, but I'm thinking Atlanta Reign.
Oh, okay. All right.
And hear me out for this one. So my reasoning is I think that Atlanta's playstyle is very different from many other teams that Shanghai's played against. I think the pressure is on Shanghai. The mental battle, it's going to be, you know, everyone expects them to win. Everyone expects them to get the chip. So they're feeling good. They're feeling confident. And I think we'll see how Shanghai has to match up against that.
You're not just saying that because you lost to a player, right? I'm starting to think that might be a little bit of bias coming over here, man.
No, I truly believe in them. I think they can do it.
All right. You said that you feel like Atlanta's going to win. If you could, you know, guess the score, what do you think it's going to be then?
Well, I think it might go all the way. It could be 4-3. I think both teams are going to fight hard. They're both going to adjust a lot throughout the match, but it's going to be definitely a close series either way.
We haven't had a 4-3 finals yet, Zoe.
Actually true. This is one of those matches where I'm just like, either it goes all the way or it's an absolute slap and
I
stop.
can agree
Like,
with that
it's one of each. We'll find out very soon, I guess, which way it's gonna go. Did you have a little session already with all the other teams which got booted by the Atlanta Reign? Did you guys get to bond over the misery?
We're building a super team for next
nice.
season. We've already got all the coaches, all the players are ready to go up against Atlanta next year.
I love to hear this.
I just imagine every player from the team like, oh, hey, I'm here too.
A shared enemy makes for really good and strong friendships. I'll tell you
true.
that. I know from experience. Thank you so much for joining us here, Space. Thanks for sharing your input, and we can't wait to see you on the server playing some Overwatch 2 for us. Now, you don't forget that we're going to have that very first look of Space and other OWL pros on Overwatch 2 during our halftime of today's grand finals. But do not go anywhere, because after the break, Jeff Goodman from the Overwatch team joins the show for an exclusive first look at the reworks for Sombra as well as Bastion. See, Danny, don't have to wait that long. But first, we have a very special treat for you right now, because here is a sneak peek at the new looks for everyone's favorite robot with a chain gun and a hat. It's Bastion.
Ooh, hats?
Johnny was right.
In the Overwatch comic binary, we learn that Bastion and Torbjorn have now become friends. And we all know that Torbjorn just can't resist giving his friend some upgrades. This ties in well with our philosophy for the new looks, which is to make our heroes feel techier and sleeker. With Bastion, it's a little tricky at first, because if you think of Bastion, He almost feels like a very rickety old truck in the way he moves and the way he looks. We were able to give him a slightly sleeker look while preserving some of that rustic flavor in his animations. You'll notice that tech upgrades weren't the only thing that Bastion got though. He also grabbed one of Torbjorn's old hats. When we first added Ganymede to Bastion's kit, it was to make him feel more approachable and more relatable. The hat does something very similar while playing off his newfound friendship with Torbjorn.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Xfinity, the preferred internet provider of the Overwatch League. One and all. See, here's the thing. Bastion ain't the only one got a rework.
Yeah. Yes.
Beep, boop, boop.
I love that idea.
This is your deck 2.0. That's what you can expect from next season.
I love
You're gonna wear hats at all times. But no, jokes aside, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Please give a warm welcome to Overwatch lead hero designer Jeff Goodman. Jeff, how are you doing?
Hey, how you guys doing? Thanks.
We're doing great. Do you like our rework?
Yeah. Yeah, I love
Big
it.
fan of the hats over here.
You don't even need them. It doesn't even look at the sun
That's what
out
we
there
thought.
anymore.
It really doesn't. It's still warm though. It's still warm. You wouldn't like it. You wouldn't like it.
I'm just in my room
Don't come
here.
at you.
Jealous.
Now, Jeff, let's start with a really easy question for you. When's the release date? No, I'm just kidding. I had to shoot my shot though. But seriously, what can you tell us about how the game is coming along so far?
Oh, it's coming along great. I mean, we're doing just constant play tests all the time and finding new things we want to try, and a lot of things that aren't working, a lot of things that are working, sort of surprising us. So I think we're sort of in this world now where we're still sort of experimenting with a lot of big things, like, just as an experiment, we're gonna try Doomfist as a tank and stuff like that. I don't know if that'll work. It probably won't work, but
why not?
I like the sound of that.
Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Jeff. Why don't we let's just give the people what they want. I think the first thing that we'll be looking at is the new Sombra rework. Anything you want to say to set this up?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of this is, we've talked about this a little bit before, but we have this sort of goal we're going for right now to try to sort of reduce crowd control effects throughout the game, and the way we're sort of targeting that is kind of leaving it on tanks. It's kind of like a big thing that they get to do, and it's like their big role, among other things that we do, of course. But so what it really comes down to is we're looking at all the non-tanks and figuring out, what kind of crowd control is really necessary. What do we think we can get away with? What feels kind of fair and what feels kind of unfair. I know that's a little hand wavy, but everyone has their own opinion on that, I'm sure. But so for right now, for example, Anna still has her sleep dart. We kind of feel like that's pretty fair. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out that people don't like that. I don't know. I think most people think it's pretty cool. But as part of these changes,
don't touch my Anna.
Don't touch my Anna.
But as part of these changes, Sombra is definitely, a big target because it's like she's all about crowd control in some sense. So that's where a lot of this rework comes from. So the first thing is really just like how to reduce her sort of disabling effects while still keeping her really strong. So I think that's a decent lead, and I think it kind of explains.
Ooh.
Well, we like the sound of that. Let's just dive straight in and take a look at the Sombra rework.
Yes, please.
For Sombra's rework, we have some really important changes that can dramatically affect the way she's played.
Overall, we are reducing her CC abilities in line with larger changes to Overwatch 2 and giving her more potential damage.
Let's start with changes to her hack ability. First, we significantly reduced the cooldown. Secondly, her hack now lasts 8 seconds, but now has 2 components to it. The first component of the ability works exactly like it does in Overwatch 1, disabling abilities. However, that effect now has been reduced to 1 second. The second component of hack is a brand new effect that reveals hacked targets to Sombra and her team through walls, and it lasts the entire duration of the hack. In addition to that, her passive has gained the ability to do 50% more damage to hacked targets. For her ultimate ability, we tweaked it so it no longer removes all shields, but instead, it now just deals damage to enemies equal to 40% of their current health. Combined with her new passive effect, this gives her even more finishing potential.
Lastly, an update that really leans into her character is that you can now hack while being in stealth mode. You are briefly revealed when hacking, but it no longer removes stealth completely.
See you later.
Wow.
Wow, indeed.
Wow. Big fan of that.
Sorry, guys. I had to squeal there. Yeah.
I mean, I'm a main tank player, straight off the bat. Everyone knows this.
That looks so fun, though.
EMPs and hacks is a big part of my Overwatch life. Now, hopefully not as much anymore. So, you mentioned it going into the video, of course. You've been taking an approach, talking about these different crowd control effects, whether it's Maze, freeze ability, and in this case, Sombra's hack ability. What was your thinking when it came to hacks from Sombra? How did you approach this ability, and what did you decide to change it?
Yeah, so it was pretty tricky because she's so tied to this crowd control effect. So we didn't want to take the hack away from her because she's a hacker. That doesn't make any sense. So we want to still be core to how she works and how she plays. So we started looking at other effects and what could we do that is impactful but isn't quite as brutal as just locking somebody out of their abilities for so long. We actually tried a version for a while where she just couldn't disable abilities at all. But there's some cool moments where you get to sort of, counter like a fair ult like you see in the video or something if you're there at the right time or you're waiting for it at the right time. So we ended up keeping it in for just a short period of time, much shorter than usual. It's almost more of an interrupt than actually, setting somebody up for a long duration thing. Yeah. But we let the hack last a little longer, and then most importantly, she gets to do a ton more damage when she's against hacked targets. So it's really this play when you're playing against her where she can hack while she's stealth. So your backline starts to get hacked. It's almost like a flag drop. Like, I'm about to come at this person. It's like a warning to everybody that and it's almost like a disadvantage for her in a way. Yeah, exactly. Where she has to essentially call her targets before she gets to do real big damage to them. So, but on the flip side, she gets to do way more damage than she has done before. So.
Mark.
I'm a big fan of that. I do think there's a really good place for Sombra in Overwatch, and I like these changes as well. The ability to mark targets essentially and then go after them. I think it's a really interesting change.
Yeah, I mean, I think, am I the only one that's super excited for the, I just want to...
I'm always on the receiving end. I don't play Sombra, so I'm like obviously less excited for what I see.
Now with the new rework, maybe we can be the Sombra player.
Oh, you want to be the Sombra to my Ryan?
Well, I mean, yeah, Jeff, you talked actually a lot about the new rework and everything, but I want you to, I want to ask you a little bit deeper. What direction are you trying to go with Sombra, just as a hero?
Right. So, I mean, I've always liked that she's sort of a little more of a setup hero. Like, obviously, she still requires a decent amount of aim skill, but she's not, the Widow or anything of the group. So I like that she's got this hybrid sort of very situational awareness and timing game going on, but also, obviously being decent at aiming helps a lot with her. So I wanted to keep a lot of that intact, and so I think a lot of what we see here is sort of deepening that in a way, because when we've been playtesting it, for example, there's a lot of like kind of mind gaming things you can do because the hack cooldown's really low now. So like I said before, when you hack somebody, you're kind of calling them out. Like, I'm about to open on this guy and do a bunch of damage, but like you can hack somebody and then you're still stealth, run to a completely different area, hack somebody else, and the whole team like rotated to help that person, but then you hack somebody else and go after them instead. And like, it's so Sombra to be able to just like mess with people like that. It's so great. Super fun. Plus the EMP that's so much more powerful.
Right. And I did want to talk to that because the element of the hack that makes it powerful now is the extra damage increase. And as a support player who's been hacked also a lot in my life, the fear of that damage is going to go up even higher, especially with that EMP. Is that a big like tuning moment of like how much damage can this Sombra really put out? Because she's going more to, as you said, DPS than a crowd control hero, and in this sort of rework.
Yeah, definitely. It's actually really interesting to play with because it doesn't remove shields anymore like it used to. So actually, it does less damage to Zarya and Zenyatta, any hero that has a ton of extra shields, because it doesn't strip them anymore. So, I mean, Zenyatta players are probably saying this is like a buff, actually. But against everybody else, it's just way better, especially against tanks. It's 40% of their current health. So it's different than Sigma's ultimate, where it's their max health. So it can't actually kill anybody. But the earlier you do in the fight has a big setup move. It does so much more damage and weakens everybody. It's this great sort of alley-oop. Obviously into a grab or something is great. Like, well, everything into a grab is great, so that doesn't really change. But
point, yeah. Well, right, Jeff. Sombra isn't the only hero getting a rework in Overwatch 2. Of course, you will be working on basically everything. But here on our Watchpoint pre-show, we're also going to take a look at Bastion's rework, because there's more to him than just a pretty robot with a hat. Anything you want to say before we roll the tape?
The tape probably shows pretty much everything, but I will say it was definitely a goal to, much like Sombra, I guess, try to maintain some of that general flavor of sort of being able to sacrifice your mobility for extra damage. But we did want to pull back on it a little bit because it got to the point where it was sort of like impossible to play him as that completely disabling yourself. So that should be deleted. We'll see.
We'll see indeed. Well, let's dive straight in. Let's roll the tape and see what you guys have done with Bastion.
Bastion is getting a big rework for Overwatch 2, and the team is really excited about his changes.
Look-wise, we updated and modernized his appearance with the use of sleeker, more modern materials. We also gave him a hat to help him stand out and to add an extra touch of character.
So going through Bastion's abilities, well, for starters, he no longer has his self-repair button at all. It's just gone. Instead, he now has a brand new ability that's bound to alternate fire. This ability fires a projectile that can bounce off of walls and stick to players, and it does a ton of damage, has a really big radius, and it's super fun to fire. His recon form weapon has changed significantly as well, and now has no spread at all, but has reduced fire rate to compensate. This lets him poke at much longer ranges and play a little more like a pseudo-sniper, kind of like his recon form theme is always kind of meant to be. For his ultimate, we completely changed it up. He no longer has this tank mode, he instead goes into a new artillery mode.
You then get to choose 3 points to call down an artillery strike anywhere on the map within the ability's time.
Now finally, something we think you'll all be excited about. While in Sentry form, Bastion can now move, albeit at a reduced movement speed. We've also changed the ability to have a cooldown now. This lets us keep it super strong since you can't use it all the time.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, all right. Those are certainly some changes, and I have a lot of questions, but I feel like I need some time to process this. You want to take over Reinforce?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of questions. Very good ones, of course, because that was amazing. Reworking Bastion, of course, from more of a specialist, you know, being Sentry now. He has more mobility, as you mentioned. What was the problems you were trying to fix with Bastion, making these changes in the rework?
Yeah, so with Bastion, you know, was one of our earliest heroes, and the game was a lot different back then, of course, and you know, we tried to tune sort of this huge disadvantage with just not being able to move, with just like, how do we give him enough firepower to make that worth it? And I don't know if there's some magic tuning point, but I'm sure we definitely tried a lot of numbers to work there, but it really comes down to the fact that, like, being unable to move in a game like Overwatch, and you have heroes that have so much mobility and so much burst damage, like, it's kind of just unrealistic to try to, like, tune that in such a way that makes any sense. So when we first, you know, kind of went to the drawing board on him again, and it was like, let's look at the sort of elephant in the room here, and, like, does he really need to be completely immobile to have this sort of effect? So that's sort of where we started experimenting right away with, like, maybe he can move somewhat, like, even just be able to move a little bit, so you can, like, go behind cover and stuff. So a huge difference. So he's at 50% move speed right now. I mean, all these numbers, you know, going on right now are subject to change, of course. We're doing a lot of testing and stuff. But, but yeah,
for sure.
I love the look of it, though. It's just this slow, almost comedic, deadly choo-choo train coming at us, like choo-choo.
I hope it makes sounds before it rounds the corners. You know it's coming. Oh no!
I love it. Now I have some time to, you know, recollect my thoughts. I do need to know, though, how much damage does that artillery actually do, and even more importantly, can Genji deflect it?
Right. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting ability because, you know, it's almost a little bit like Doomfist ult, where you get to create these, you know, this targeting area to drop, well, in this case, artillery shells, but it works kind of like Doomfist for targeting purposes. But you get to shoot 3 of them, and the actual projectile coming down from above is a projectile like any other. So it can be defense matrix, it can be reflected, it can be, you know, all these things. So you can look up and block it with Reinhardt.
I love that.
It's possible for it to hit a flying Pharah if she's really unlucky. Like, it's just flying.
My mind is going wild with possibilities right now. Like, what can we do with this?
Yeah, it's like I'm combining a lot of things. Like, if you flux them and they're up in the air, and then you strike them when they're in the air.
Or just grab them. And just
grab. It always comes back to the grab.
Yeah, everything just goes well with the grab. It's like
answer to everything.
Yeah, it's like black clothing. It's like, oh, that works.
All right. I have. This might not be a smart question, but I really wanted to ask this. So my favorite mode for Bastion Rework was the Sentry mode. I find that very cute as well, and I think I'm gonna enjoy it. How long can you stay in that form? Is there a time limit, or can you just roll around, or is it rolling around?
Forever.
Can you forever? Yeah, drive forever.
So it has a cooldown now, which is pretty different. I mean, before it was part of his sort of, you know, kit to be able to transform wherever he wanted to, but it got to the point where we really wanted to keep a lot of the power in this thing. Even though he can move, we wanted it to be very, very powerful, and when you see him come around the corner, you'd be really scared of it, and, you know, maybe have to back up or give him some space or something. So in order to really get that sort of power level, we decided to put a cooldown on it for now. So you can't do it all the time, but the uptime on it's pretty high. So you definitely are going to be able to do it a lot, but it allows us to, like, make the ability a lot more powerful that way. Also, to hit on
it's like a Cinderella pumpkin kind of, right? Like Transform back and then you gotta get out of there. You gotta get out of there.
Just to answer your damage ultimate question real quick. The damage on the ult is, because I know people are going to want to know this stuff for sure, some people anyway. The impact, the actual shell coming down from the sky actually does impact damage too, much like our fire rockets and Junkrat bombs and stuff like that. The impact does 300 right now, and the explosion also does 300. So direct hit is 600 if you happen to get hit by it directly.
Oh wow.
Which is really nasty, but it's pretty unlikely to get hit directly. And then it does, a bunch of fall off from the point of impact out to its full radius. So you
Looking at Costa's face, he's gonna be the lucky one in the middle of it.
I have a problem dodging wrecking ball mines, and I now have another thing that I have to really avoid.
Here are 3 Doomfist ultimates.
When you said you were changing Doomfist, I didn't expect that I'd have to deal with another person like that. So I am interested though, because the first thing I thought of when I saw it rolling around, I was like, they just wanted to bring Pirate Ship back, but make it so he can do it himself. He's his own little pirate ship now, just like rolling around. Yeah, I don't need a shield with me. I can do it all myself. So my question with that is, like, what is the most interesting thing that you've seen with this kit change? Because there's a lot. There's the mine, there's the rolling around in Sentry Vault, the artillery. What's your favorite thing?
Oh man, there's a lot to sort of comment on here. So I really love the ult. I think it's super fun. The fact you get 3 shots, you get a lot of kind of mind games with that too, because typically when you first play, you're probably just gonna carpet bomb an area, bam, 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 click them as fast as possible. It gives people less reaction time. But also what you can do is drop them like right on top of everybody, and then drop one kind of where you think they're about to go, and then hold the third one for a couple beats, and then drop it. Like, you can just really mess with people on how you're dropping it, because you get to sit there for a little while.
I'm afraid.
It's super fun just to mess with people. I mean, you have to be a little weird because you're sitting there, much like Junkrat is when he does his ultimate. You're sitting there vulnerable somewhere, and hopefully no one's killing you or you're protected or something. So I've definitely got caught sometimes just like being in some silly place, sitting there for too long trying to mess with people. But it's pretty fun.
The mind games returns. I do have one last question I would like to ask anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, I've asked you this several times. I've had the chance to speak with you, but I can't remember the answer. This time with the rework, have you actually tried Bastion being able to mount like Orisa? And why did that not work?
Why the Lord would anyone want that?
It's amazing. It's like jousting. It's good. Did you try it out?
That sounds like an Orisa ability more than a Bastion ability to me.
Okay, just throw someone up there and let her run around.
So what I'm hearing from that answer, Jeff, is it's not out of question. It's just a Bastion ability.
Orisa rework.
I fear for the sanity of our animators to try to make that look decent in any way possible. but yeah, maybe.
I appreciate it.
Let's not go there. But hey, kudos to you for pushing it, Reinforce.
I'm trying my best.
Yeah, you really do. You really do. I really appreciate it. I also really appreciate you taking the time here to chat with us, Jeff. We can't wait to see what else you and the team have in store for us. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure, no problem. Great to be here. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. And don't forget, everyone, we do have more Overwatch 2 content coming up at halftime for our Owl Pro push demo. You definitely do not want to miss it. Now, you also don't want to miss the next match. It's not a big deal. It's just the Overwatch League 2021 Grand Finals. We break that week now between the Atlanta Reign and the Shanghai Dragons right off this break.
A red team is gonna win.
Yeah, Robin over there.
I guarantee you, a red team is gonna win.
He just knows. Wow.
Jonas could have got that one, right?
Yeah, it's